Okay, so now that you looked at the basic rules, we're going to look at some examples. So number one, this would be the power of a quotient rule, which means the -2 is going to be brought into the numerator and denominator. So this would go to 3 to the -2 over 2 to the -2. Now, we don't like negative exponents, so how can we rewrite this to make it positive exponents? Well, I always say when you have a negative exponent, you cross the line and change the sign. So this would be moved to the denominator, and this would be moved to the numerator, and then they would become positive exponents. So this would become 2 squared over 3 squared. Now we can evaluate it because it has a positive exponent. You can't evaluate when you have a negative exponent. So now that they're positive, this would become 4 over 9, and that would be it. Number 2, this would be product rule since we have the same base, so we're going to add the exponents. So this would become 4, keep the base the same, to the -3 plus 5. Add those up, I would get 4 squared, and 4 squared is 16. Number 3, 5 to the 0. We know anything raised to the 0 power is always going to come out to be 1. Number 4, this would be the quotient rule since I'm dividing and I have the same bases. So let the division sign kind of be a little hint for you and look at it as a subtraction sign. So we're going to subtract the exponents, keep the base the same and subtract. So this would become 10 to the 8 minus 3, which would get me 10 to the 5th, and that would evaluate out to be 100,000. All right, let's look at the next couple, which are going to be a little bit more involved. They're going to use more rules in one problem. All right, number 3. The first thing we want to do is bring our power into all of the terms in the parentheses. This is our power rule. So we're going to raise -3 to the 3rd, a to the 3rd, b to the 4 raised to the 3rd power. What do? We multiply them. So 4 times 3 would be b to the 12th. And then c squared to the 3rd, again, multiply your exponents. That would be c to the 6th. And then we just have to evaluate -3 to the 3rd, which would be -27, a to the 3rd, b to the 12th, c to the 6th. Number 6, we are multiplying. So this is our product rule. So let's first just worry about our coefficients. Follow through with the multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 6 times -2. So 3 times 6 times -2 would get me -36. Now, this is our product rule. They have the same base. We need to add our exponents. So if I look at x squared, x to the 3rd, I'm going to keep the base the same and add the exponents. So that would be 2 plus, what power is on this x right here? 1 plus 3. And then we can do our y's. So keep the same base and add your exponents on the y's. So 4 plus 5 plus 2. So we get -36, x to the 6th, y to the 11th. And that's it. Okay, number 7, this looks like the quotient rule. So what can we do? Well, first we can just go ahead and reduce that fraction 4 over 18. You're not subtracting that because the exponent rules only apply to exponents. So 4 over 18, we're just going to reduce by dividing both of those terms by 2, and we get a simplified fraction of 2/9 so far. Okay, then we're back to our exponent rules, and we have a quotient we know to subtract. So I'm going to do a to the 3 minus 1, and then b to the 1 minus 4. So I would get 2 to the 9th, a squared b to the negative third when I do the subtraction. And where does this going to go to make it a positive exponent? Right down to the bottom. So final answer would be 2a squared over 9b cubed. Number 8. All right, so let's see what we can do here. First thing I would go ahead is do your power rule in the numerator. Let's go ahead and bring that power of 3 into all of the terms in the numerator, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to get 2 cubed x to the, again, we multiply when you have your power to a power, so negative 3 times 3 would be negative 9. Y to the 4th to the 3rd would be y to the 12th. And then I'm going to keep the denominator, but I can go ahead and evaluate 4 squared at least to be 16. Now, I just want to make a note. If you're thinking, well, why can't I move this x to the negative 3 down below first as my first step? Because the numerator is all being raised to the power of 3. They're stuck inside the parentheses. So you have to do the power rule first, and then you can worry about moving things around. Okay, so from here, you can go ahead and do a couple things. You can go ahead and change it so it has positive exponents, or you can go right into your quotient rule and do the subtraction. I'm going to go ahead and do this quotient rule and see what that gets me. So I get 2 cubed, I can at least do that and get 8. And then I'm going to look at my x's. So this becomes x to the negative 9 minus negative 5. And then y to the 12 minus 2, all over 16. So negative 9 minus negative 5, that's going to go to x to the negative 4, y to the 10th, over 16. And then last two things we can do is we know that we can move the x to the negative 4th down below now to make it positive. And it looks like that I can reduce 8 over 16 down to a half. So I get 1 over 2. Y to the 10th stays on top. X to the 4th goes to the bottom. There we go. All right, number 9. So we got some multiplication here first. So you can go ahead and cross cancel. You can go ahead and multiply straight across. It really doesn't matter. It might be easiest just to think, hey, let's do the multiplication in the numerator, multiplication in the denominator, and then apply our exponent rules. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the numerator, and that's going to get me 2x to the 4th y cubed. I'm just going to move the x in front just for alphabetical. And then I'm going to multiply my denominator. So that would get me 12x squared y to the 5th. Now it just looks like the quotient rule, and we can simplify from there. So I can reduce 2 over 12 to 1 over 6, and then I'm going to subtract my exponent. So this becomes x to the 4 minus 2, y to the 3 minus 5. So I get 1 over 6, x squared y to the negative 2nd when I subtract. And then where does this y to the negative 2nd go? Right down to the bottom. So my final answer would be 1/6 x squared over y squared. Okay, number 10. All right, we got some power rules. So before we do any multiplication in the numerator and denominator, we need to go ahead and do the power rule. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 to the 4th y to the 4th first here. So 2 to the 4th y to the 4th. I'm going to leave x squared as it is in the denominator. And then this would be power of a quotient. So that power of 3 just has to go to the numerator and denominator, and we're going to multiply our exponents. So this would become x to the 6th over y to the 9th. And then I'm going to go ahead and just multiply straight across, and then we'll worry about simplifying. So 2 to the 4th, that's going to get me 16. And then x to the 6th, y to the 4th. Again, just multiplying my numerators over x squared y to the 9th. And then we just need to simplify. So it's back to our quotient rule, so we're just subtracting. So 16 x to the 6 minus 2, y to the 4 minus 9. So I get 16 x to the 4th, y to the negative 5. And we know to move y to the negative 5 down to the denominator. So our final result would be 16 x to the 4th over y to the 5th. And that's it.